So there we are. So I've said it's an extremely brief introduction to digital voice radio. I didn't want to make it too long, but just to give you a flavour of the different modes of digital voice radio before we go into to Peanut. So what is digital voice radio? Let's see if I can, I can just, oh yeah, no, it has gone out of the way. Good. So what is it? Well, for radio amateurs, let's see, minimize that one as well. Yeah, put that up there. Right. Okay. It's a type of digital as opposed to analog radio used for voice transmission. There are many other types of digital radio, static radio, FTA, RTTY, whatever, which are digital radio, but not voice. So as far as digital voice radio is concerned, there are a lot of different proprietary standards. So there's ICOM does D-Star, Yaesu does Yaesu System Fusion, YSF, and then there's also digital mobile radio, DMR. And then the last one is Kenwood ICOM have developed NXDN. So I'll just talk a little bit about each one of those. Now, there are also a couple of open standards. There's one called 3DV and one called M17. Now, M17 was, you know, is still very much in development, but the idea of that is it's completely open standard. So developed by amateurs for amateurs, so we're not tied to any proprietary standards. Now, I've mentioned at the bottom there a couple of things, Freestar and All-Star. Well, Freestar is a way of linking together digital voice radio systems so that somebody using a Yaesu and Fusion will be able to talk to somebody using D-Star on an ICOM, which they couldn't normally talk with each other without linking networks. Well, Freestar does a very good job of doing that worldwide, so that's that. And then All-Star is a different sort of digital voice radio in that you use an analog radio to connect to an All-Star node, which could be in your home or it could be a repeater. And then it goes digital to another node or repeater, and you can talk to somebody else at the other end, normally using an analog radio. But of course, because it's digital going across the internet, it can be connected to Freestar and lots of other voice systems as well. So just a little bit about DMR. So said it's digital mobile radio. And there's a couple of examples. Now, the one on the left is one that I've have myself, a Retrovis RT3S. They're reasonable sort of price, so, you know, around the £80 mark, you know. So it's 2 meters and 70 SEMS, analog and digital, the digital part being DMR. So that's that. D-Star. Well, it stands for Digital Smart Technology for Amateur Radio. And it uses a particular codec called AMBE, which is a vocoder to translate between analog voice and digital. And a couple of radios are shown there. So there's a handheld one, an ICOM ID 50E. And of course, the new ICOM 705. So that has D-Star as part of it. So that could be useful if you're up on top of the hill and you want to get people to call you, you know, for SOTA activation. You can say, well, I'm on this frequency, whatever, you know. So it's a general thing with digital radio. You can arrange skeds, and that's one of the plus points for it. So now we'll talk about fusion. And again, you know, we talk about this AMBI codec, and they talk about C4 FM modulation. And it uses this fusion standard. YSF is, you know, a lot of the networks are prefixed with YSF. So again, a couple of radios. So there's a handheld one, the FT70DE. It's a newer one, and then the FT991A. So it's really a similar sort of radio to an ICOM 7300, except it has fusion built into it, or, you know, C4 FM. Right, so this is the ICOM Kenwood NXDN. So it's another standard. And wait a minute, that's the wrong thing. Right. So a couple of radios. There's the Kenwood one and an ICOM one. So they work in partnership. And so that's comparatively new as far as amateur radio is concerned. But it's another thing that you can use. It's not actually available via Peanut at the moment, although it could be. So I was going to say a little bit about AMBE. So that it's developed by Digital Voice Systems, and that's a picture of the chip. And it's a DSP-based vocoder. So that's the thing for getting good quality digital voice. To comply with their patents, any software to use it should use this chip. Right. Now, just talk a little bit about connecting digital voice radio. Right. So the first thing is you can do simplex. So if two of you have got DMR radios, you can go to one of the DMR simplex frequencies and talk directly with each other. Right. So that's one way that you can use the radio. Another one is to use a digital repeater. Now, if it's DMR, it's got to be a DMR repeater. If you're using D-Star, you need a D-Star repeater. If you're using Fusion, you need a Fusion, or C4 FM repeater. So if you haven't got a local repeater that uses a standard of digital radio in your handheld or whatever it is, then you're a bit stuffed. So using repeaters, the repeaters themselves are connected to the network systems on the internet, and of course they're connected to other repeaters anywhere around the world. So via them, you can be talking to somebody else in California or New York or Australia or wherever it happens to be, via using the networking across the internet. Now, what happens if you haven't got a repeater locally? Then what you can use instead, you can use what's called a hotspot. So a hotspot has a radio in it, very low power radio, only to you locally, you know, at home or wherever you happen to be. And you can use your radio to talk to the hotspot, and the hotspot is connected to the internet and connected to the networks. And at the other end, you could be talking to somebody connected to a hotspot at their end, or they could be connected to a digital repeater local to them. Right, now, I've put a slide here, I've called it the West Cornwall Digital Voice Desert. Now that map on the left is showing all the DMR repeaters around the UK. And as you can see, if I zoom in on the bit for Cornwall, there's nothing at all in West Cornwall. So if you've got a DMR radio or D-Star radio, you know, there's some toward, you know, around St Austell area and going further east. So you need a good aerial to you know, in a good location to be able to get into one of the digital repeaters. There are Fusion, D-Star, DMR repeaters over that way, but nothing over our way. So, hotspots. Well, I've just shown some examples. It's a cheap Chinese one that you can find on eBay. That DV Mega is from Holland. You know, they're good little you know, all built in with it's the simplex one. It has a single aerial. That one there, you might think, well, is that really a hotspot because it's got a USB on it, you know, to plug into a PC. But in fact, it has a VHF radio built into that, right? So it has an internal VHF radio aerial in there, and you need very low power from your handheld or whatever to connect to it. There's a Raspberry Pi one. A lot of people have those in various forms, and they run an application called PiStar, and PiStar, you know, is very well thought of for connecting to lots of digital radio networks of various forms. Now, that photograph on the right is from an advert for the Shark OpenSpot 4. And you can see the chap has his beer, he's got his digital radio there, and he's just using his hotspot to talk to other radio amateurs anywhere around the world. So, you know, it can be a self-contained unit like that with a tiny aerial inside it. Right. As you've seen, you know, because of the nature of digital voice, it lends itself to going across the internet and linking with systems worldwide. Because of this, you can use what's called a dongle, right? So generally it plugs into a PC, and there are various different types, but there's one here which is a DV Mega Globetrotter, and that particular one can act as a dongle, but it can also act as a standalone AMBI server. Now, if you've got a standalone AMBI server, it means you can connect to it via your network, via Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and you can run software on, say, an Android phone or on your PC that connects to any of the systems. Now, there's several bits of software that you can use on an Android phone. but certainly one of the best ones is called Blue DV, and it was developed by the same Dutch amateur who developed Peanut. Right, so this is some examples of me using Blue DV at home. Now I have a DV Mega here, which you can't see because I'm sharing the screen at the moment. But this is me running the Blue DV software on my PC, and you can see there I'm actually on DMR, and using the AMBI, I can say what channel to connect to, and that's me transmitting on DMR. Now it's the same thing, me using D-Star, and the same again, me using Fusion C4FM, and then the last one is me using NXDN. So using an AMBI dongle or an AMBI server and the right software like Blue DV, you can actually use any of the digital radio networks without having the radio. Okay, and you're fully legal. You're doing everything correctly. You've got the IMBA chip. Right. Now, I was going to say just a little bit about All-Star. As I said before, it uses an analog radio, and it connects by the network, and the network is called All-Star Link. You can have your own node at home, or you can connect to a repeater. Now, fortunately, I live in St. Kevin on the eastern side of the Lizard, and I have a clear path to GB3DQ near Polperro, and that's linked into All-Star. So I can use my Yaesu 7800 on 77s, connect into GB3DQ, and I can talk often to around Newcastle area in Scotland, and then on the Sunday afternoon they're linked with American networks, and there's one called the Worldwide RAMTune Net. So I've connected on there. So I've been one of the few people connected via RF to join their network. But there we are. So that's All-Star. Freestar developed in the UK a couple of years ago, and the whole idea is to have a system where these radios can talk with each other, because they're made as proprietary systems and they're naturally incompatible with each other, but Freestar solves that. So, okay, so how does Peanut fit in? Well, first of all, it's free software, and you can use some of these networks, totally for free. Okay, okay, I'm going to talk about my Peanut presentation, for details on that. So let's see. I'll just let's see if I can show the camera. Right. So the video's working. I'll turn this round, and that's, you can see it. Hold it right. That's my DV Mega Globetrotter. Okay. And because I'm sharing the desktop, I'll just minimize the Peanut for the moment. If I run, here somewhere. Oh, here, I've found it. So this is, This is the Blue DV software. I'm not going to try and connect and use it, but I did, you know, just to show you it's there. And, you know, normally it would be connected to my Ambi server and whatever. And just to give you an idea on the setup, you know, there's lots of information on the setup you have to do to get it going. But the software is free. And if you've got a dongle or whatever, you can do it, and you can use any of the channels and reflectors and whatever, you know, if you have that software. Right. So let's now let's actually go to the peanut. Right, okay. So what is Peanut? So it's developed by David, PA7LIN, and it's a free application that you can just download and install on either Android tablet, phone, whatever, or Windows. And it allows you to talk using digital voice radio, you know, across the world. Now, the Android could be a smartphone, tablet, network radio. Well, network radio is what I have here, which is an Enrico T320. Now, basically, it's an Android phone, if you like, that has a bigger battery and it has a PTT button on the side. So you use that, you know, use it similar to a radio with the right software. Windows, desktop PC, laptop, netbook, you know, whatever you like, you know, running Windows. What can it connect to? Well, Peanut connects to various digital radio rooms, as they're called, and there are different types of those. Now, the best audio quality tends to be what are called local rooms. Now, they're generally for a language, so there's English, English 1, there's French, Aussie, you know, lots of language, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. But there are also some special rooms like the old boys' room. There's one called the cafe, whatever. Now, when you're talking on one of those rooms, you're actually talking to somebody else using Peanut anywhere in the world. And it's very good sound quality, as you'll see. But as well as that, there are rooms that are connected to reflectors. Now, for D-Star, there's one starting at REF, and there's ones XRF, etc. So they're on the D-Star network. Somebody with a 705 could be talking using one of those D-Star networks, and you'd be able to talk to them via Peanut. Same thing for Yaesu Fusion. You know, there are rooms that are connected to various fusion networks that you can talk to people, you know, using a Yaesu radio and RF, and you're using Peanut. The last one, you know, there are DMR rooms, right, connected. They're all actually connected to the TGIF network, which is one of the networks you can use for DMR. The most common one is called Brandmeister, but there's another one called Phoenix. A lot of people in Scotland tend to use Phoenix, and some in the south as well. TGIF is comparatively new. It was formed by a group who were on Brandmeister, and they had a bit of a falling out with this digital police, as they put it, and they actually made their own network, which is TGIF, and it's been expanding quite a lot. Right. Room examples. So, you know, I'm just showing that from Peanut. So some DMR ones. There's some local ones, and I've ringed one there to show it's CW only. Well, that's very nice, because again, you can have a radio, just put the side tone on, and use the microphone for whatever you use to connect to Peanut, and key over across the world on CW, and it works very well. Sounds good. One of the DMR rooms I ring there is connected to Freestar, so again, you know, that connects all the different nodes together. A couple of reflectors for D-Star, a couple of Fusion examples I showed. Right, now installing Peanut for Windows. Well, if you go to David's page, which I can show you in the browser later, but basically, if you can't remember it, just do a search on Google, but don't just put Peanut Radio. Otherwise, it'll find lots of stuff on Peanut Butter or whatever. But Peanut Radio and David's page should be there, and you go there. Right, now, if you go down the page, you'll find a link for Windows download. And when you click that, you'll get basically a directory listing, and it will show the latest Peanut there. So generally right click, save link as, and you save the zip file. You unzip it and you get an MSI file, double click that and install it. Now, that's me at home. I tend to use D apps and Peanut, because I don't install anything under Windows C drive if I can avoid it. You know, I use you know, another drive for installing my applications. After it's installed, you get an desktop icon normally, and it says the Peanut. So double click that, and it will run. And above the VU meter on it, there's a setup button. So you click that, and this is the stuff that you need to do. So the first thing, obvious thing, is you need to put your call sign in. You then need to enter a code to allow Peanut to work. Now, to get that code, at the bottom here, you can see there's a thing that says Peanut registration. So you can either click that, or there's a link on you know, the main Peanut page talks about the registration link. Now, if you do that, then Peanut will work. You can use the local rooms. If you don't do anything else, that's all you can do, is use the local rooms. Still talk across the world, but obviously the best thing is to have a DMR ID, which allows you to use DMR and Fusion. But to use Icon, you need to have an Icon registration as well. Right, so again, there are buttons here that can take you to the pages. But let me show you the Peanuts page on here. Admit. Right, so somebody else just joined. Yes, so welcome. Just started the stuff on Peanut, just doing the registration here. So the registration, all it asks for your name, email, you call, and you just attach a PDF copy of your license and submit it, and they'll email you back a code, right? Right. So next thing, if you don't have a DMR registration, you can click there, and it will bring up the page in the browser to do that. And the same thing with ICOM D-Star. And again, I've shown the pages here. So that's the registration page now for DMR ID, radioid.net. There used to be a different one for Europe to America, whatever. But anyway, it's all on one page now. And it also includes NXDN, which is something comparatively new that you have to apply separately, but by the same people. The US Trust is this D-Star Gateway thing, and again, the page, it tells you what you have to do. Right. So other things that you do, well, obviously you enter your DMR ID in there. And you click these query buttons. So the first one checks that your DMR ID is valid. The second one checks that the ICOM stuff is valid, right? And hopefully it will say found on that. So that's those two things. You may want to change your settings for sound card. Generally, the default ones it comes up with are fine. There's some more things at the bottom here. Okay, we go save on there. But these are some extras, which are things which are only available in the Peanut for Windows. There's something here called DVAP. So it's a digital voice access point. Now, generally, they were made originally for D-Star, so they were designed for use for that. But in simple terms, I think they're just an AMBI dongle, and you can connect that through on your computer. So you confirm what the COM port is, and the baud rate, whatever. You can use GPS. You can put a Latin long in there, and you can send that, and some systems will recognize that. At the bottom here, there's some other buttons. I would normally have the spacebar PTT on. That's useful. It's a quick way of activating it. The receive transmit colors again are very useful. I'd recommend putting that on. It's a lot easier to see if you've keyed up accidentally because it's red. Log the last heard, again, very useful. Right. Okay. So what's the first thing to do is to try an echo test. So it's a bit like Echo Link. You can do an echo test. So there's a Peanut local room called Echo Echo. If you go to that, and then you've got to be on, obviously. So you turn it on there, and then you can just it will say that it's connected to the host Echo Echo, and then you just key up. Press the space bar once, and you get the red screen, and you get the countdown timer from 3 minutes, because that's a limitation on speaking. If you waffle too long, which I often do, and I'll time out, you can just press again and get another 3 minutes. But anyway, just say something in there, press the space bar again, and it will come back, and it should show your name and your call sign, right? Because it's recognized that from the settings you put in. Now, Peanut for Windows has got some nice extra things, right? Because on the right, there are these other 3 sections. One is called Last Heard, very useful. Oh, I'll have to wait. Sorry, got a phone call. And you can see who's online, you know, in the particular room that you're in. There's also a nice scan feature. So you can put, you know, your favorite rooms or, you know, into there and just get it to scan it. And you can leave it on in the background. When somebody comes up on one of those rooms, it will stop there and you can listen into the conversation. If you want to join in, you turn the scan off and you can talk in that room. Right. Now you can't transmit while the scan's running, so you've got to turn it off. And I've explained this, you know, before you turn the scan off, then you can transmit on the room. That particular one, it was English 1. There's a TX light, and you get the countdown timer. On receive, the scan is off, and there we're receiving on the English room, and there's Mark from the US talking in that room. Receive lights on. Right, so this is one of the rooms, old boy's room, and I had a chat with Stephen in Reading, who all he did was get in touch with David in Holland and said, may I have a room, please? And David said, well, okay, as long as it's on a use it or lose it basis. So he has his room, and he's very happy for people to use it because, you know, that keeps it going for him. And Stephen's very happy for us to use it for the demos, etc. So now I'm going to do a demo of the Peanut for Windows with James. Hopefully hasn't fallen asleep yet. Right, and then I'll carry on with some more stuff afterwards. So I'll minimize that and bring up my Peanut. Sorry, it's there. Right. Well, before I do anything else, I'll just show you briefly. There's my setup again there, and I'll put send GPS on. Right, save that. Put it back on, and I'm connected to the room. But this is the main dashboard for Peanut. And here it's showing online stations. Well, if I dare go here and I put the first bit of old boys in there, and you can see my call sign, you can see James' call signs in there, and there was somebody else who was just in there, disappeared. But that's an easy way to find out who's actually in the room that you're in. But at the top, it's showing who's actively talking. And last heard speaks for itself. And this shows you the status of the various gateways into the different things, DMR or whatever, right? Okay, so that's a useful screen to have somewhere. So if I'm using Peanut on, for example, my network radio, and I want to know who's there. I'm just on my phone. I'll bring up the dashboard, and I can see who's speaking in what room or whatever, and then I can choose that room. Right, so that's it. So hopefully you're good to go now, James. So I'll give you a call on Peanut, and hopefully it's not going to echo at your end. You have to turn down the Zoom volume, obviously. Right, so I can use spacebar, I can do it different ways, but use spacebar. VK7 JDZ, VK7 JDZ, G4WKW. Hopefully you can hear me there, Jane.
G4WKW, VK7 JDZ, Jim. Hope you're not hearing me twice. I've got my microphone on. I'm doing it turned on. Over.
Yeah, okay, James. Yeah, good to hear you. Yeah, I can hear something in the background, but I don't think it's the Zoom. It's probably something else. But can hear you fine there from Hobart, Tasmania. How's the weather been today? I didn't ask you that earlier, so always a good English thing to talk about. It's been a bit cloudy here today compared with yesterday, but I think it's starting to clear, and we do have some sunshine. But anyway, how are things in that part of the world?
It's VK7JD returning. Yeah, g'day Richard, and hello to your audience. So it's quite cool in Tasmania this time of year, being the southern hemisphere and Tasmania being the closest part of Australia to Antarctica. It's starting to chill down a little. No wind today. It was a little overcast, but that's opened up the clear skies this evening. The last few weeks I've been doing some social activations, and I am planning in the next 4 weeks a walk in Tasmania called the Overland Track, which is 7 days out in snow and cold. So actually this evening, when we finish this discussion, I'll set up my tent out in the backyard. I haven't opened it up for a couple of years, and I prefer to find out that it's not working when I'm in the backyard rather than not putting me out into the highlands. Back over here.
Yeah, VK7 JDZ, G4WKW. Yes, okay there, Jim. Yeah, all good stuff. And yes, I wish you luck on your trek from next weekend. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's just sometimes a bit hectic trying to get prepared for all these things, and hope you don't forget anything important. I always tend to forget something when I go on the trip, but there we are. Anyway, thanks very much for the demo there, James. So we'll do one again with me using Peanut Franzo in a little while. And so we'll go back to the Zoom meeting now. Put it over to you for your final VK7 JDZ G4WKW.
Yeah, G4WKW. Yeah, Richard, that's coming in very clearly. The benefit of the internet, you may as well be sitting on a chair and very, very clear. So with that in mind, I'll log out of Peanut on my Windows PC, and I'll also log into Peanut on my Android phone, and I'll see you there shortly.
Yeah, okay, James. I'm going to give a few slides on the Android first. So I'll be doing the presentation bit first before we actually do the demo on Android. So catch you back into on Zoom, G4WKW. Right, okay. So just while I'm here, I'll just show the scan feature. Oh yes, of course. I hadn't I hadn't actually set any channels up on here. So just I'll just do a couple. So let's see. So we'll put put the English room, and there's the CW room, and well, of course, I need old boys room, and let's see. I'll put that one is 3-star. So anyway, that will do. And if I could put it on scan, once it connects up, you can see the light changing as it's scanning between those rooms. So if anyone talks on any of those rooms, it would stop and you'd hear them. So that's a really nice feature. It means you can have Peanut running on your PC while you're doing other stuff, and somebody interesting comes up. If you want to join them, just turn the scan off. When you turn the scan off, it will be set to whatever room it stopped at. So I've just stopped it, and it's on the 3-star room. Anyway, I mean, I could demonstrate with other people on other channels, but I think you've got the idea. Right, so I'm going to turn that off now, minimize it, and I'll go back into the slides and start from the current slide. So we're talking about Peanut for Android install. So first of all, as per normal, just go to the Play Store, look for Peanut Radio, and it should come up there. Peanut for ham amateurs, it says. So, you know, install the app. After you install it, you know, you should get your Peanut on your home screen or wherever. So open the Peanut app, and it will normally pop up something like this that says allow Peanut to record audio. So normally while using the app, just a standard thing when you first run in an app. So then it's running, and the first thing you need to do is set it up. So press the setup button at the top right. Again, it's similar stuff to you saw on Windows. You need to put your call sign in, your DMR ID. You query the DMR ID, and it should work. And then click the check button, and it should say found. So that makes sure that you're registered on the icon side. Let's see. You may consider using a learn key if you're using something like a network radio. I don't actually do that on my network radio because the screen button is easier, and it latches. Whereas if I use the PTC button on the side, I've got to hold it pressed and let go when I finish. Well, you know, it's easier to have it latching. Press the submit button to save it, because yeah, that's important. Otherwise, it won't save anything. Right. Log in again, it has a button at the top to actually connect. And again, I recommend going to the Echo room. Press the PTT once and it will come on air, red, similar thing. And again, you get the down timer. You've got 3 minutes. When you press the PTT again, it will just play what it heard back to you. So it makes sure that your Android mic and everything is working as it should. So that's my Enrico T20 running Peanut. And that's, it's in receive mode. That hasn't come out very well, but that's Steve, who, in the old boys' room. And then that's me transmitting and red. So having those colors is helpful. So now I'll do a demonstration with Peanut for Android. So I've got it running. Put that on now. What I'm going to do here is hopefully point my camera at it. Camera to that one. That's it. Right. Right, got there. So I've got you can see there, and I've got it turned on, and I'm in the old boys' room. So I'm about to call James again. GK7JDZ, G4WKW, calling you on my network radio phone, Enrico T320. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
G4WKW, this is ZUMSPOT-USB. I'm also responding to you using the Peanut client on my Android phone. And again, the quality of your voice is coming through perfectly. We may as well be in the bar, sitting next to each other, having a beer.
Now, that's a really good idea there, James. Yeah. I'm looking forward to doing just that sometime. I don't know whether it's going to happen, but yeah, sitting in a bar, having a beer, yeah, sounds good to me, James. And equally, you're sounding crystal clear on here. If anything, better it was on the Windows, simply because my laptop was connected to this external system, and anyway, the audio didn't seem quite as good as it is on my cheapo network radio, but all good stuff. Back to you from G4WKW.
WKW. G'day, Richard. So I suppose now's an opportunity to say thank you very much for the opportunity of you inviting me to be part of your presentation this evening. I'm very impressed with Peanut, and I think it was you who introduced me to Peanut, and also, yeah, all the extra information you've provided tonight. So, yeah, once again, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. VK7JDZ, G4WKW. You're very welcome there, Jim. All great stuff, and hopefully it's inspires a few people to see what digital voice radio is about, but particularly that you can do everything on Peanut for zero cost. Other than your internet costs that you probably already paid for. So if you then enjoy digital voice radio, then you can consider buying some more hardware and doing it fully. But at least you can do it for nothing to try it. Anyway, I'll put it back to you for final, and then I'll just cover some more slides, and then we're done. apart from questions. So VK7 JDZ G4WKW.
G4WKW, Tim VK7 JDZ. Yep, thank you once again, mate. I'm certainly enjoying this aspect of the hobby. I'm still quite new to the hobby and learning the analog bands, but having access to something like this when the other bands are closed to me, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. So once again, thank you for the invitation. Over.
KW returning. Yes, okay, Jim. Yeah, all good stuff. Right, so I'll go back to the Zoom now, and thanks very much. Really appreciate your help there, Jim. Right. Screen. Okay. Right. So back to the last slides. So just talking about a comparison between Peanut for Android and the Windows version. Well, Peanut for Android is easily portable, unlike the Windows version. Because even if you have a Windows phone, you can't run Peanut on it. So, you know, okay, when you've got a laptop, whatever, but it's not so good as you can use a standard phone. Peanut for Android is missing some features like the scan, which I really like about the Windows version. And one or two other tricks actually on the Windows version. You can actually run two copies of it, so you can actually be in two different rooms at the same time, which is handy sometimes. Peanut for Android only runs in the foreground, right? So David had to change it to do that because there were issues where people unknowingly were keying up, and you know, it was causing problems on the network. So by having it only in the foreground, that cut that out to a large extent. And of course, if somebody does key up accidentally, it will only last for 3 minutes anyway, because there's a timeout. They're going to have to wait. Somebody's calling me. Right. So it only runs in the foreground. The small screen size on some of the Android devices may make it difficult for you know, to use. So again, you know, just drawback on that. So wait a minute. Oh, go away. Right. Some of the benefits of Peanut. So it's anywhere in the world for free. Probably the highest quality audio. Now, really, I should have recorded some, what I meant to do, I didn't get around to. I was going to record some DMR audio, some D-Star audio, some Fusion audio, so you can compare them with Peanut. If you're not familiar with DMR, because it uses time division multiple access, and it's using a narrow bandwidth, it's very restricted, and and the audio sounds, I won't say Donald Duck, that's not quite right, but it's what people who use it regularly think is good audio sounds pretty awful to me, I have to say, right? But it's a communication system. You can get reliably heard across the world. D-Star and Fusion are marginally better, I think, right? But again, it's not the standard that you get on the call we just had with Peanut. Peanut doesn't need radios, antennas, tuners, meters, whatever. Now, one of the great things there is, say you're old and you have to go into a care home. Could happen to any of us. Well, you can't use your HFLs there or whatever. When I was living in Falmouth, I knew somebody who did just that. They had to go into a care home, and it was, I felt really sorry for them because they were completely cut off. They talk regularly on nets and everything else, and suddenly they're all their friends they weren't in touch with. Well, if you got Peanut, you can do that, and if you get them to use Peanut, they can still talk with people around the world without having a radio and whatever. It's a great introduction to digital radio. And you can try D-Star Fusion and DMR without spending big bucks on the radio that's got them. Yeah. So, it's another good reason. It's great for if you want to do a SCED. Like if I wanted to try and talk to James on 20 meters to Tasmania, it would be good to be able to call him up on Peanut and say, well, I'm on this frequency, whatever. And we might have a chance of making it. Okay, so some drawbacks. Some people say, okay, it's not real radio, I'm not going to use that. Well, that's up to them, right? Android on the mobile can be interrupted, right? So somebody phones you up and you're trying to talk with somebody on Peanut, it will go straight to the phone call. Only provides rooms for a selection of digital reflectors, so you won't get them all. It's only the ones that happen to be linked to Peanut. No direct connection to all-star nodes, right? So, there's a big one on All-Star called HubNet, which a lot of people use. It was started in the UK to promote activity, and it links nodes all over the country to HubNet. Well, unfortunately, there isn't a HubNet room on Peanut. I would really like that there was, but it's not there at the moment. People can be using All-Star, and you can talk with them on Peanut if they're connected to Freestar, because as I said before, Freestar links up everything. Some conclusions. Hope you enjoyed the talk and appreciate the good points and try it. We could consider regularly using the old boys' room, right? It's a regular chat spot because there's no repeaters here, as I said. So I use it quite a lot, There is an English room, which is used probably more, but the old boys is available, so I suggest it's a nice one to meet up on. You find me on there. If there was sufficient take-up, we could even have a sort of Cornish radio group room, either on that or if enough people go on DMR, it'd be very easy for me to create a room on TGIF network. You know, I could make one for Cornwall radio. You know, there's ones for groups all over the country. Thank you. Thanks for everyone who participated. Special thanks to James or Jim in Hobart, Stephen for his old boys room, Callum and Terry, and lots of others making it all possible. So that's it. So if I bring up the other screen now, yes, I think what I've got to do is stop the screen sharing. There we go. So has anyone on Zoom got any comments there? I'll tell you what, I'll just stop the recording. I should make sure I do that. Recording.